Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the How to MSP podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Moore.
The best MSPs are structured, okay? And I mentioned peer groups, I mentioned EOS, but if you have a structure in place, it then becomes possible to plug and play. But one of the things that I always preach, especially how to retain, is there needs to be some career pathing. Have that org chart and make sure that any team member can look to that org chart or that career path and say, look, this is my next evolution. What are the benchmarks that I have to hit so I can move from help desk 2 to help desk 3?
That was James Bier, co-founder of Apollo VAR Staffing. He's also their Chief Channel Development Officer. They've worked with 600 plus partners providing strategic placement of talent in the technology sector for over 25 years. They're also one of only a handful of MSP-centric talent placement firms in our industry. Today, we're going to talk with James about recruitment, retention, and building processes to help scale your MSP. Good afternoon. Welcome to the How to MSP podcast. My name is Andrew Moore. I'm your host. And today we've got a wonderful guest for you. His name's James Bier. He works for and owns VAR Staffing with his brother, Mark. They are remarkable individuals that I've known for going on 15. Don't laugh. You guys are awesome.
We're old.
Yeah, old. Remarkably old.
There
But
you go.
we've known each other for at least 15 years, if not longer,
Yes.
working together in the MSP space. So, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, James, and kind of what you guys do over at VAR and or Apollo, or as you guys go out in the real world, you're out VAR Staffing.
So thank you for the intro. And yes, the kind words. We are old, unfortunately, my friend. We are, but yes, we have known each other for a while. I am James Bier, one of 3 co-founders of Apollo VAR Staffing, which is a search firm dedicated to the MSP ecosystem. There's a handful of us out there. We like to think that we've, again, due to age, have been around the longest. We're very fortunate and blessed to have our tribe, and we consider Andrew Moore to be amongst that tribe. So I hope you will reciprocate as well, Andrew. But yes, we have known each other for a while. We have a lot of friends in common, and we have a lot of war stories. And yes, it was. I remember meeting you and Ryan. Yeah, it was probably 15 years ago. I think a CRN event in San Antonio at the JW Marriott, if I could be wrong on the venue, but yeah, it has been a hot minute for sure.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. If there is an opportunity to be at a conference somewhere, my old CEO Ryan Lincoln will be at that conference
For sure. For sure.
So that tracks, especially in San Antonio. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun watching you guys kind of really get focused as MSP has changed over the last 10 years, and working with us and growing your business. And so we've had a couple of opportunities to enjoy some whiskey at some conferences. Like we were just at IT Nation, and we had a really good first night that, as far as I remember.
Everybody made it back to the room. So that's right. Their own room.
Yeah.
So that's 100% true. But
Yeah.
it definitely was a good time. And that's kind of, as we lead this off, as I've reflect on my almost quarter century in running my own our own shop here, it seems to me that's really what it's about. And we're big and heavily involved in peer group communities. I know you guys were TBG members. The Evolve community in ConnectWise is really a community we've worked with a lot of their members as well. And they like to echo what they call the go-giver spirit. And that's one of the things that I really kind of nerd out about. I unlike most vendors, when they do a lunch and learn or they do a strategy session with any peer group or any MSP, I myself am also an entrepreneur. So I get it. I totally understand. So it's never about us. It's always about our clients and our candidates. And I try to never lose sight of that. I do.
Physically, where does the podcast find you? This, I guess we're early afternoon. Where are you at this?
So we are in I'm in our Dallas headquarters. We're located just outside of the Dallas area in Richardson, Texas. Watching this podcast, there is a chance that you may have visited our office, and if so, come back and see us. We'd love to say hi.
Yeah,
Uh,
you got a
I know
cowboy hat. You got a
I have the
cowboy hat in the
cowboy
back.
hat, so that's Texas there, of course. And I know that you've had some recent relocation in your world as well, Andrew. That from
Yep.
one part of the state to another. So how are
Moved up
things
to Austin.
in Austin? Yeah.
I do. I love Austin. Like I just the I 100% miss my neighbors. Right. Like I had the most amazing cul-de-sac and neighbors, and the most fantastic opportunity to like raise a family in a place that I just felt completely safe with the people that lived around me. But now that my family's I'm an empty nester, living up here has been absolutely incredible. Like I wake up every day, I see deer, like I've got
Yeah.
trees behind my house. Like it's freaking awesome. Like I love it. Well, let's do this. Let's jump in and talk a little bit about, um, what you're seeing right now, because I can tell you this is, having been in an MSP and worked with you, to help do some placement. And then within my peer group, you've been in a couple of the other companies there that you've been doing that. It's been really helpful for me as a consultant to be able to bring you in to help my clients try to find opportunities. And what I'm finding is that with us and with the other MSPs that you've worked with and my clients, there's like, people screw up a lot when it comes to hiring. What I mean is, when we screw up, we say like, we don't know how to post. We don't know how to vet. We spend a lot of our precious management calories in the hopes of saving a recruitment fee by trying to do all this ourselves. Like, where do you see MSPs like fuck this up? Like, where are they not doing it the right way?
Yeah, it's a and look, Iron Edge was one of our favorite accounts here, signature account, one, and we always enjoyed working with you guys. Great team, but we see it all the time because hiring is risk. There's never not going to be risk. People are a very unpredictable commodity. So whether you have internal HR or you choose to partner with a firm like Apollo VAR Staffing, you're going to have risk at any level. And you mentioned it earlier, burning these calories. Does it make sense to try to in-house this and not outsource it? Well, one of the things that we realized as we matured, again, our relationships kind of drive everything that we do. We got to an inflection point where a lot of our partners kind of had an aha moment. The light bulb clicked. And I vividly remember this with a very large partner of ours that said, you know what? We were sitting down, we were having lunch, and he looked at me and said, "You're asking me to eat my own dog food, aren't you?" And I took a pause. Thought about that. And he's like, okay, what does an MSP do for their clients? Whether that's a law firm, a dental office, I mean, they look at him and say, look, you don't need to worry about your IT, your spend, your services, your hardware, your life cycle, all of that. Let me be your trusted advisor. So as we grew our practice and really sharpened in and dialed in how we do what we do, it became apparent to a lot of our really strong partners that we're doing pretty much the same thing they are. We're saying, look, let us be your trusted recruiting partner, just like you're the trusted IT partner for your clients. And that's where we're really able to, when we can morph that relationship into that mantra, it becomes very easy.
But where do they like? So I 100% agree with you that the opportunity to frame it for that, but like they come in and they're just like, you know what, Monster works just fine, or
Yep.
I'm dating myself. Like
Yeah, now it's
I,
Indeed or Zip or
yeah,
whatnot. You're
yeah,
dating yourself
yeah,
again,
I know,
Andrew.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a very good point, actually. When you look at online postings, whether that's your website, whether that's Indeed or ZipRecruiter, whether it's LinkedIn, uh, that seems to be the primary candidate pool or resource that most people go to. They start there. To your point, it's free or it's cheap. I actually, well, I used to have this question in my evolved peer groups. It's like, I said, well, what is your number one go to when you first start a job? What's your starting point? And I took a poll. This was probably back in 18 or 19. And the majority said Craigslist. And I had to chuckle at that, take a step back. Like, you're looking for your next engineer, solution architect, service delivery manager, the same place that I would look to get a used microwave. Are you really that's the play here? So, but hey, it costs $25 or $50 to post. And this was again years ago. But really, regardless of what platform you post a job on, what we have found is that will get you what we call an active candidate. They're actively replying to a posting. Again, your website, your posting, or your LinkedIn profile, whatever, they're active. Where we try to differentiate ourselves and what we would advise everyone, whether you want to partner with Apollo VAR Staffing or try it yourself, is go after that passive candidate market. Now, how do you do that? I don't have the silver bullet,
So
Andrew.
so let's hold on. Let me interrupt you for a second. Can you explain what the for people who don't follow the lingo, what's the passive market mean? What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. So a passive candidate. A passive candidate is probably high performing. A passive candidate may not have a resume. A passive candidate doesn't have time to reply to a posting anywhere.
So
So
passive candidate has a job?
passive candidate typically has a job and most of the times may not even realize they may be looking for another job.
They're
So
just they're just they're just in their job and they're kind of
they're
not
doing their
super
job.
happy.
Their heads down. Maybe they're happy. Maybe they're not. They don't know, but they're good at what it is that they're doing. And because of that, they don't really have time to come up for air or reply to ads. Again, this isn't a blanket statement, but this is one of the takeaways, the hacks that I like to say that I always like to plant. Again, when we present content in a lunch and learn environment or not, or whatever it may be, is try to go after that candidate pool that won't reply to your ads. How do you do that? It's very tough. That's a passive candidate. Every candidate, most recruiting managers, recruiting directors, or a lot of the bigger search firms, they do a lot of posting and they cherish those postings and they try to get it to go viral and then to see what comes in. So it's like if you're fishing and you're throwing a net out, let's get as many fish in the net and then we'll go through and sift through the net and see what's the good fish and what we can throw back in the ocean.
But isn't that what most MSPs are doing themselves, right? Like, so even beyond
That
like,
is yes. I would say I would have to say that the majority of them, they try a posting at first, then they try to partner maybe with a another search firm that does the same mechanism now, albeit at a more professional setting. And we all have what we call it ATS, so an applicant tracking system. There's various different versions. So we have a lot of partners that actually use their PSA platform and use that as their ATS as well. So everything has a ticket, every candidate has a ticket, so they can go back and reference that. But really, what we think is the most richly untapped candidate pool is that passive candidate pool. That's a candidate that simply doesn't reply to an ad. And maybe they could be looking, they don't have the mental bandwidth. They've got other things going on in their life. They've got kids, they've got golf, they've got whatever. And they just don't want to, they don't want to mess with it. But that's where we try to push people towards.
yeah. And so when you're looking at like as an MSP, you're out there and you're posting on LinkedIn, you're bringing in a bunch of people. They're, as you would call them, active candidates. They're out there looking for a job. They say open for hiring and,
Green
all that
sap,
stuff.
what we call it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you bring in, 10 or 15 of them and you are a busy MSP owner or operator and you're in the process of running your business, running your service delivery team, whatever. And then you have to sit down and like ask these people some questions, right? Like you're vetting them, you're trying to figure out, who they are, where they came from. You look at their list of accomplishments, you ask them a few questions in an interview process and, they tell you, they put their best foot forward. I'm not going to say that they lie to you, but I'm going to say that they put their best foot forward.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
How, so like when that starts to happen, I, I haven't. I have a decent bullshit detector, but like it's not perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't do that every day, right? And I've been honestly tricked by some people that I thought were going to be fantastic. Like I've looked at their resumes, I looked at their experience on LinkedIn. They had a great interview. I talked to them, for 30 minutes a couple of different times. They came into the office, they represented well, and then they were not great, right? So like when the MSPs are trying to find that next hire, are they doing it wrong when they're vetting? Or should they be asking different questions? Like, what do they need to do from your experience as a recruiter, like just to help them understand, like, listen, this is hard, but if I were to give you some advice, like, here's some things that I would at least do to vet your candidates better, even though, you probably should be working with a recruiter, but if you don't, right, here's some things you probably should be asking. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say?
It is. I think I see on both sides of the fence. I see some clients that are what I like to call victims of paralysis by analysis. They overtest, and then they may have a go no go on or baseline metric that you have to hit to be able to progress along in an interview process. And then I see others that are just like very loose and fly by the seat of their pants, and they just they can get deceived or snowed over. But uh, what I like to tell, I'm not going to sit here and tell here's the perfect interview script, here's the perfect process
Right.
that you should go through. What I would say is trust your process. If you have a process, and we do consult on this with partners all the time. Hey, look, if you have 5 interviews and then you have a writing sample and then a mock QBR presentation, if you go too long, and I think we had an experience with this not too long ago as well, you can really bite your nose to spite your face type situation. So in that regard, let's get a process that works, that makes sense, that's feasible. Okay. And to your point, even if you post an ad and get 10 really good candidates, you still have to workflow those 10 good candidates. And if it's just on average 2-3 hours per candidate that begins an interview cycle from resume review to interviewing, to second interviewing and then to a final interview to offer, it's probably 3 or 4 hours total man hours just on the MSP or on the hiring manager side. So if you do that times 10, and that's 40 hours right there that you're investing in
Right.
candidates. So being able to kind of offload that burden onto somebody that really knows what they're doing, there's a value in that as well. But back to your question, how to vet better, trusting the process. I always like in testing. Okay, if you want to do some baseline cognitive stuff, back in the day it used to be called the Wonderlic. Now there's 18 to 20 different versions of that.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it's great to have baseline data. If you're going to test somebody, my strong advice is have it be a scenario based test. And it could be nothing more than on a panel interview saying, okay, client calls you, end user at a client calls into the help desk and says, I can't log on to the internet. What do you do? And just watch the hamster wheel spin in the candidate's
Right.
head. Are they going
Right.
to get the perfect answer all the time or exactly? No, but hopefully you're going to see them back in the day. Old guy like me, the scientific method is what it used to be called. How do you get from step one to step two to step three to solution? And oftentimes, look, somebody's going to have to Google or use some level of automation to find out an answer. That's okay. Is it every little thing? Password reset. Okay, there's some stuff that you should be able to clean, but I've seen a client actually, to use the term loosely, bear trap a candidate where they want them to stop and say, okay, you know what, I need to stop here and catch my breath and collaborate with a peer. This is a little over my head. So they actually put a little landmine in there to see if they'll actually do that.
Right.
So the vetting that I like, I think works out the best, scenario-based vetting. Heck, bring them into a ticket. Open
Right.
up on Teams, open up a ticket and say, what would you do here? Things like that. I think you're going to get your best bang for the buck out of vetting and testing in that scenario.
But what I want to echo there is I found that when we vetted, we didn't ask we asked what we thought were good questions, but they were more like off on questions and not,
Open-ended.
yeah.
Let's
And so like the questions that we would ask was, do you know how to configure a firewall? And they would say, yes. Right. Like, are you proficient with a sonic wall? Yes. Okay. We moved to questions then that from that point, then we moved to the next question, which was, tell me the last time you configured a firewall and did you do it from scratch? And then a lot of the times they'd be like, well, it's actually been a couple of years since I've touched a firewall from scratch. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like you're familiar with it, but you don't actually do it. Right. Like, oh, you've been around, you've been adjacent to it. You're like, you smell of firewalls,
or
but you,
you were part of that process. You
yeah,
weren't the driver, you were
yeah,
the smart hands. You
yeah,
were on
yeah,
the team.
exactly.
And to maybe tie a bow on this, you could even in that scenario, have you ever configured a firewall? Yes. Okay. Customer A had this firewall failure and they can't replicate it. What do you
Right.
do?
Right.
So to your point, let's just see how they react to that
Right.
situation. Go into whatever and figure it out. Try to figure it out, and not so much are they turning this exact screw at the exact time that you would do it, but are they using the process that
Yes.
makes the most sense?
Yeah,
That will get to the conclusion.
absolutely. No, that's a great way to put it. Okay. So when folks are looking to work with a recruiting firm, I just in general, right? Like, I mean, I know that you're obviously partial to your firm, but like,
No, I know where
well,
this is going. No, trust
no,
me.
but I mean, but just, where, what do they need to be looking at? Like one of the things that I used to like to do with when I would talk to my clients and when I would sit down and think about, how I wanted to be perceived in the market as an MSP is I would like, what do people really need to ask? Right. Like what's going to allow them to make a better decision, whether it's me or not. Right. Like, because I'm not always, my company wasn't always going to be the best fit. Right. But I did want the client to be able to make a good decision. And even if that meant later they found the error of their ways and came back to use me. But when you're working with a recruiting firm, what should people be looking for? Why is it important to look for somebody that's more MSP centric rather than just a generalized, business recruiter or headhunter? Like, talk about a little bit about like what that looks like and what kind of questions they should be asking and what do
Sure.
they need to be looking for?
Yeah, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of IT recruiting firms out there. So, what what I would advise, there are a small handful that do focus in the MSP ecosystem. Uh, we have some friends that are there. We have some um, you know relationships that are at some other of these firms. But one of the things that I would advise, and if somebody's catching this that may be not in the MSP space, but running another small accounting firm or maybe a mid-sized law firm or whatnot, is being specialized in one particular area really is crucial in this. Just the amount of knowledge that I've accumulated and my team has accumulated over the past 25 years in our business and the past for 18 years that we've been really exclusive to the VAR MSP solution integrator ecosystem. That's invaluable data. I can't teach that to anybody. When we were at IT Nation last month, that was my 15th IT Nation. No, excuse me, 14th. Sorry, my 14th IT Nation, and just all of the information I've been able to glean and the pieces that I see that a lot of people use this solution, use this vendor, and pair it with this vendor, and conversely, they don't often pair these two products together. That's all ingrained not only in my mind, but in the walls of Apollo VAR Staffing, is that comes down, and especially when you get into some um, redundant roles, an L2 engineer, you can sometimes get victim of a keyword search and say, oh, well, this person knows Active Directory and Azure and 365, but then you look at it a little deeper, and they've been at a healthcare system for 18 years, which means one network, and they can't triage and they don't understand the pace and the cadence of an MSP. So when you're looking to if you choose to partner with a search firm, that's one thing that I would encourage people to focus on. Find one that specializes in your patch.
No, that's good because I think it's important for people to realize that if you're going to work with a recruiter, that it, listen, everybody in the MSP space knows there's a difference between a person that has worked on a service desk in an MSP and a person that's worked on a service desk in a what we call them internal IT, right? Anybody that's come out of corporate IT, they've got a different pace, they've got a different like
Absolutely.
focus, right? They're just, it's not the same.
But it's tough. And partnering with an MSP focused partner that really knows the MSP space, that's where I again really think, because if you know MSPs up, down, left, and right, and you say, look, I know you're really good at finding good help desk talent. We now need to find our new director of professional services. I do believe that it's easier to teach someone that type of role than it is to teach somebody that doesn't know what an MSP is, what an MSP is.
So when I'm out, I'm an MSP and I'm like, look, when I'm vetting the recruiting firm, the placement firm, like, what does that look like when we're dealing with our fees and structure? And like, so if I'm talking to different recruitment firms, right, and different placement firms, so I'm like, listen, sounds great, you're MSP centric, or it sounds like you've got depth and breadth so that you can pick up people in any one of the situations that I might need. What does your contract look like in case you're not awesome at this? Like, because this is our first time to go down this road. Like, what does that look like? What are those last couple of questions that I think you should be asking if you're an MSP when you're talking to recruitment firms? Like, what
Sure.
do you
Yeah.
need to be asking about, like placement locations and like contracts and that sort of thing?
Yeah. Contracts are more or less boilerplate. There's really two primary models that most firms exist in. I'm talking any industry, any firm. And where we kind of like to model ourselves now as we've kind of grown and matured our practices, we like to use the Corn Ferry model. So Corn Ferry, they're sort of the gold standard when it comes to executive search. An executive can be used loosely, but their primary revenue model is some bit of a retained search model, and we do quite a bit of that right now as well. But by and large, the majority, I would say, we do about probably the split is 60-40 between retainer, and then what's the most common is contingent. So contingent search is very safe for the client. Simply put, if you don't want to hire, if you don't want to pay the fee, then you're not going to hire the candidate. No fee is due. Now, the risk you run as an MSP when you're in a contingent relationship is that there's other fees or other retainers that firm is working on that may get priority. So you run that risk, and you also run that risk if you try to beat somebody up on their fee schedule too hard, because then the firms are going to go where they think they can make the most amount of money in the least amount of time. Sometimes you can become penny wise and pound foolish, as I like to say, in that regard. Oh wow, I beat my recruiter up and I got a 10% fee or whatever. Okay, well, how's that working for you? Are you really getting success that you want? And when you're not, are you looking yourself in the mirror and saying, okay, I won the negotiation, but I'm not getting the candidate inflow. I'm not getting the success I was looking for. So in that regard, fee structure to some degree, we're fairly dug in. I won't get into specific numbers, but it's more than 10%. I'll say that much. When we do have these conversations, and I said it earlier, I let off with it. I totally get it. This, what I do for a living, I'm a steward and a purveyor of information. I'm a steward of the transaction and a purveyor of information. That's it. It's never about me. Okay. But I totally get it that my fee for a small business owner, and most of the part, even the ones that I call large, I don't work with the Fortune 100. When you're looking at that, everything's SMB. Those fees matter. I
Yeah.
totally get it. And we're not We're not ignorant to that. We don't ignore that, especially in a mid-sized MSP where it's usually an owner, operator, husband, wife, or two partners come together. And when we look at them and say our fees are, when they do the math, it's, that's
Right.
a vacation. That could be their 16-year-old's first car, and they're investing that in us, and we have to be a steward of that as well. And when we are trusted with that, uh, I don't take it lightly, and we stand behind our work. And I would hope that any recruiting vendor that anyone uses does as well. And I'll, I'll I'll kind of veer off here after this statement, but really, what makes our firm unique is that the partner level involvement is almost unprecedented. So there is literally nothing in the recruiting cycle that I myself or my partners won't do. So that's what makes us really unique, is that we have that partner level involvement that will steward and shepherd the entire process. So if something starts to go off the rails, it's not with an intern or a second year associate that's going to be the safety net. It's me or one of my two business partners on
Yeah.
all transactions.
Well, to your point, and I think that that's, something that people should be asking, like who's going to be recruiting and how does the process work and where the relationships lie and, who are the folks that you're currently, working with? What does your stable of placements look like? And, do you feel comfortable that you can go back to that well? Because I think that's important. But I guess what guarantee should MSP be looking for if, God forbid, that everybody misses something, right? Like we
Yeah,
bring in somebody
and
who sucks, and
yeah,
we didn't find it till week 4, right?
yep,
What does that look
it happens. And again, in the boilerplate language, there is typically a a very good runway when it comes to what we call a guarantee period. So again, I'll get into specifics offline,
Right,
but
right. Just generally, like based on like what you're seeing in the industry, you talked about the I've never heard of corn fairy. Maybe that makes me a complete ignoramus, but like when you said
that
corn fairy,
too.
I was expecting like some sort of like really interesting like
So
analogy to some
let
like
me give you this analogy. So when
Dungeons and Dragon character.
as a sports guy too, when the University of Texas initiated their search for their next head coach, they partnered with Corn Ferry.
Okay.
You're in Austin now. So
Yes.
when Sark was placed by Corn Ferry, the list was already short, and a lot of
Yeah.
again, we can go offline on that, but that's who a lot of the Fortune 50 use Corn Ferry.
There you go.
Lot of the the bigger players out there, sports franchises, they could use Corn Ferry. I thought it was pretty cool stuff. But anywho, Corn Ferry is a lot of the big four consulting, that they would partner with Corn Ferry. So
I swear I'd never heard that. It was either like a deer feeder
yeah,
company or it
yeah,
was
no,
like
and the other thing that they do that they're very well known for now is they sponsor the PGA Tour, and it's Corn with a K, not a C, KOR.
wow, like the band.
Yeah, exactly, like the band. We'll
Yeah,
get there, right?
like
Yeah, that's that.
like
Yeah,
like the
spoiler
band.
alert, it's not Corn for me.
Yeah, like your favorite band is Corn
Yeah,
because they
no,
spelled
yeah,
with a K. Because that's
yeah,
marketing.
yeah,
So when you so just kind of back to the question, when you are dealing with if I'm an MSP and I'm out like having conversations with 2 or 3 other placement firms and I'm trying to pick the right one, I mean, obviously like fee structure is really important, but then also there's got to be, and again, like we don't have to get into specifics, but typically
sure,
a
sure.
range anywhere between
Here's
30
one.
days and 6 months or something where you can negotiate or you can have something where you're just
Well, yeah,
like,
the
make
guarantee
sure
is
that give me some
yeah.
guarantee on who you're putting in here, right?
Oh yeah. And even with us, it's like we will, even beyond that guarantee period, if we know about it, we're going to make it right. Okay.
Right.
So, there's credits that can be issued. There's make rights. There's all of that. So, so yeah, so that, I mean, it's pretty standard. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it all revolves around risk and what you pay for, when, if you do execute a fee with a firm, is you're going to get that guarantee, but you're also going to get our lens. And I like to say, if they've gotten through us and they get through you, and the MSP owner or COO, whatever, the odds are pretty good that candidate is going to work out there. It's never going to be 100%. It's never going to be that. But we know that if the work that we do, the vetting that we do, and we're able to get that candidate through our process and then all the way through the interview process of the client, we've hedged that risk. And that's really what we're doing. And that risk, I think, is much lower when you partner with a firm that specializes in the space. Now, it may be cheaper. You're not going to pay the fee if you get that ad response, or you bring in 10 candidates and then you have 3 finalists and then pick the winner. I'm not saying that can't work, and it does. It can work. I just don't think that that's entirely scalable when you're looking at that. It's more time consuming. And if you listen to what is being preached in EOS and in peer groups, it's, focus on growing the business and get outside of, the weeds of the business. Right. So that's that you get that in that relationship that comes with that trusted MSP recruiting part.
So let's switch gears. Let's talk about what the best MSPs do, right, when it comes to hiring and retaining. Let's take you guys out of the equation. So let's not even talk about what folks are doing with their recruiters. Just from what you're seeing, right? What are the best MSPs doing when you're interacting with them? What are the best MSPs doing where you're like, they're bringing in the right people. They're keeping the right people. They're training the right people. Like even the people that aren't great, they're still able to get the most out of them. Like, what are you seeing that makes those MSPs great so that people know where they need to be, right? Based on all of that's what I really want to pick your brain about on this particular topic is talk about the MSP space and what you're seeing that the best MSPs are doing, because you touch so many of them on a daily basis. What are the best ones doing?
Great question. And I really think the best MSPs are investing in themselves. And really the peer group community is chief among them. And they are investing their time and their energy. And as you know, it's and Evolve, we would go and we would do the lunch and learn, we would do the dinners and all this, and it looked like it was a lot of fun. But I knew that those Evolve members, they had
Right.
spent basically 9 hours, okay, 9 hours, one of which may have been a lunch and learn by me or another vendor, but they were in that room for 9 hours, do that for 3 days, okay, 3 days, or 2.5 days, whatever, and then they do that 4 times a year. So that is a tremendous investment in your team, whether you're the owner or whether you're the service leader or you're the operations man, whatever. But taking your team and saying, look, let me invest my time, my resources in this process. So to your question, the best MSPs are structured. Okay. And I mentioned peer groups, I mentioned EOS, but if you have a structure in place, it then becomes possible to plug and play. So if you have I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but one of the things that I always preach, especially how to retain, is there needs to be some career pathing. Now, we all have seen the career help desk that wants to be help desk 1 and help desk 2, help desk 3, and they're very good and they're very content about that. Okay, so there's a place on the team for that. So have that org chart and make sure that that any team member is always has that, can look to that chart, that org chart or that career path and say, look, this is my next evolution. And if I don't make it to my next evolution, well, why? Okay, what are the KPIs? What are the benchmarks that I have to hit so I can move from help desk 2 to help desk 3? And then if I don't do it, that's on me. That's not on the client. And when you're doing your peer review, your yearly reviews, you've got that there. Hey, did you hit your benchmarks? Did you get your AZ 900, whatever,
Right.
whatever it may be? And if no, I didn't do that. Well, that's what we need to do. We agreed upon this. That's in our, whether it's in the handbook or the jobs or whatever, but the organizational piece is key. And having the right structure, which actually I think comes from leadership. That's what we're seeing a lot now too, is really over the last 12 to 18 months, my biggest ask has been, hey, I need director of client services. I need director of professional services. I need VP of operations, because I think it's become apparent now, and certainly it's become very loud and echo chamber, in some of the coaching I'm sure you do with your partners, is like, let's build that team. And sometimes we can go bottom up, but if we get the right leadership in place,
Right.
it's easier to get the branches put in place beyond that. And once those branches are there, what's next? Where do they go?
Right.
So on and so forth. So to answer your question, it's having that structure in place. What regardless of what you do, peer group, EOS.
Top grading. Yeah, I was going to mention that. Well, and what I've found too is that, what I'm starting to see, and I've talked to a couple of different folks about it, is I guess they used to call it the Peter principle. And I think it's a little probably negative in regards to that, but you've got some great folks that start out with MSPs and they grow with the MSP over time. And eventually they become the service manager. And some of those folks don't have any formal business training. They don't have any formal like process management training. They don't have any of that stuff, but they're really good at like, working an engineering issue, and they're really great at like working with the other team members, but they don't understand the processes and the systems that are required to scale a business. Right. And so I feel like that has been an underserved part of our MSP community over the years, because as you said, like the better MSPs have got management in place that understands processes and controls and the importance of job descriptions and, being more than one person deep on a team and that sort of thing. So I echo your sentiment.
I know EOS is big on like accountability. If you write it down, and you do a review, whether it's a 6 or a 12-month review, it, it, you should have clear expectations of what you, as a, if you're the leader, if you're the manager, are looking for in your team members. And if as a manager you can't give that to your team, well then that then falls on you. And
Right.
if you can give it to your team and they are unable to hit those benchmarks, well then that's on them. So and together, hopefully it's not a sporting event where there's a winner and a loser. It's
Yeah.
everything should be collaborative, but that's shoring up those processes. And I see it all the time too, that you may have a MSP that started out as 10 or 15 person, and now all of a sudden they're 90. And I think you mentioned it, that service manager, that help desk manager for the 10-person MSP may not be the right fit for the 90
Right.
person. So they turn
Right.
into 90.
Yeah.
So being able to layer up or layer mid layer in between and kind of adjust on the fly, that's pretty crucial as well. So
Yeah.
looking at self-evaluate, self-scouting, again, from a sporting perspective, from a diehard and delusional Cowboy fan that I am, being able to self-scout is key, is a
Yeah.
key element.
Well, and so one of the things that I wanted to talk about, which I think I've seen with some of the better MSPs out there, I just want to get your take on it, is I think some of the better MSPs when it comes to hiring do actually look at the hiring process as part of their sales and marketing efforts. And what I mean by that is like a lot of people don't understand like level of urgency, right? Get to know quickly, you know, ask up front, like budget, timing, authority, that sort of stuff, right? So like if you're recruiting, I feel strongly that the MSPs that are getting the better recruits have been doing a really good job of putting stuff about themselves out there culturally on social media. They've got a great like package that talks about what they do, right? Like they've got their job description is specific but exciting. Can you talk about like the difference that you see in placement from the MSPs that are able to capture those great candidates and the ones that like they get away from them, even though they're probably a decent MSP, but they're just not polished? What are the better ones doing in regards to the marketing and urgency of trying to hire the right people versus the ones that like haven't really thought that process through?
Yeah. So where I see this going, with social media exploding, especially over the last 4 to 5 years, it becomes kind of a slippery slope, because you post about the Christmas party or the time you went to Top Golf, or we're at IT Nation and having a good
Mm-hmm.
time, seeing the Goo Goo Dolls or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Where does it end? How do you stop? So it becomes almost like a snowball effect where and then if you're not feeding the machine, well, what's wrong with these guys? They were just out throwing axes or whatnot. And now I hadn't seen them in 8, 9 weeks, what's going on? So it's almost like careful when you do that
Right.
type of stuff, because then you may inadvertently push out the wrong messaging by even silence, because that
But
could be
that comes back to your point, right? The companies that are intentional and structured are going to have, I guess what I'm hearing from you is, if you're going to go out and decide that you're going to have this full press to start putting a bunch of stuff out there on social and start building out collateral for training and hiring and all that sort of stuff, like, don't do it and then like get excited about it for 3 months and then stop doing it for 6 months and then,
yes,
right,
yeah.
be
I mean,
consistent, right?
yeah, and I think it's pretty easy now to see when they're somebody's blowing or gaslighting or whatever you want to call it, just making it look like, oh, this is the greatest place,
Yeah.
and it's just sometimes it becomes almost desperate. So
Right.
curing up processes, having, you mentioned job description too. I can't tell you how many times that we've got a job description, and now Chat GPT or there's any automation
Yeah.
platform right to a job description, but I've got a reservoir of them, and by and large, an L2 in Dallas looks pretty much the same as an L2 in Atlanta and an L2 in Washington D.C. So I've got a pretty good barometer for that. But it's a situation where make sure that you're adhering to those same standards. And if you're looking for some specific skill set, put it in there, because a lot of times especially when we begin our engagement cycle with a candidate, they're going to keep that email or keep that PDF or keep that Word doc that says this is an L2 at XYZ MSP. And they're gonna say, well, it never said that I had to have Microsoft certification by month 4, even though that was the expectation. So put that into your job description when
Right.
necessary. But certainly, if you need baseline benchmarks, put them in there. That way you can again help hold the team accountable.
Well, and I also see too that, like, to your point about processes, right? Like, you should have a process for hiring, and it should be pretty consistent, because I've personally seen some pretty good candidates that, if you're not following a process that you're upfront with them about, let's just say that you've decided that you're going to hire somebody and they're going to have 2 interviews, and then you're like, well, the owner needs to talk to him, and I didn't really think about that, so let me go ahead and get the owner scheduled.
Yeah,
Then what? Well, you know what? The owner said that he should go probably talk to this other person too. So we're going to talk to that person. And by the time you're 4 weeks into this, they've met with 6 different people. They're like, listen, I didn't sign up for all this. Like, I'm a huge fan of something we talk about with clients a lot. When I talk to my MSPs, is a client will let you burn down their house as long as you tell them when you're going to do it and how long it's going to take. So so, and so I think the same thing comes with setting expectations in the recruiting process, right? Like, you sit down and you have that conversation and you say, this is what our process looks like. You're going to have 2 phone interviews. You're going to take a quiz. Then I'm going to have you come
yeah,
to the
no, and
office
that
for
for
2.
modern
Yeah.
candidates, absolutely, yeah. And I'm kind of a naysayer when it comes to the younger generations, which I guess is sort of a generational thing. Once you get to be the elders in a society, you can
They're all lazy.
get off my lawn, and it's all that stuff. Exactly. Um, an interesting pivot that I've seen really over the last 2 years is certainly you have an MSP that may have brick and mortar, and we have some partners that actually don't, and some
Yeah.
that have never have, even before the pandemic. But what we've seen now is sort of a shift of candidates saying, you know what, I kind of want to go back in, and maybe not 5 days a week
Yeah.
for 10 hours a day, be chained to my cubicle, but I want the engagement. I want to collaborate. I want to work, as I mentioned, that like you here at our shop. That's where we get the most bang for the buck. And once that candidates are asking for that now too. And again, not an overall statement, but the exception to that is what's coming up now is the Gen Z. I mean, they are dug in. They think that remote 100% work environment, remote work environment was in the Constitution, that especially will get people that the first question they ask now, and I can always tell it's Gen Z, is this remote? Not how much does it pay, but is this
Right.
remote?
Yeah.
And really, to me, that's like, you know what, you're probably not a serious candidate.
Yeah.
And that's typically where I take that down. I always make a mental note of that if that's the first question. And it can never be about money. Truthfully, I don't think it can never be about, well, I can never go work in an office again. To
Right.
me, that is a, asterisk next to their name if those are the first words out of their mouth.
Right.
The job. So
what I want to ask you one quick question before we get into our questions to wrap up here. But one of the last things I want to ask is, what advice do you have for MSPs that are out there that are looking to grow with or without a recruiter when it comes to hiring, right? Doesn't matter. And a lot of them are probably going to have their shit figured out when they're at 7, 8, 9, $10 million. Like, I hope, right? Maybe they don't, but the ones that are $3, $4 million, right? 5 million, they're starting to grow. They've been used to, getting people that they know, and, they've been using Craigslist or LinkedIn, but it's just not working the way it used to. Like, what advice do you have for them generally? Like, what do they need to be doing?
So build that process. You can help. I can help. Find somebody that you trust and that has some success, and get a process built. I always like to give some free nuggets, some hacks, if you will, and I'll kind of scatter shoot them. And I think these are things that are pretty obvious, but sometimes get overlooked. First off, probably the most obvious is tenure. It matters. Okay. If somebody's had 8 jobs in 7 years, the odds are pretty high that if you hire them, they're going to be looking for their 9th, within 6 to 12 months. It's just data. And again, that's another victim of Gen Z, is that they think they can always grow. And they think that they should start out, maybe work a month or 2 in the mailroom, and then they'll be the VP. And then in a year, they'll be president. So that's, again, my naysaying of this upcoming generation. But 2, another hack, okay, is colleges. And we oftentimes like to see and think that it's very attractive when people come from, I don't know how to put it lightly, um, non-Ivy League schools. So trade schools, technical schools, just a school that you had to work at to get to, rather than a blue blood institution, which I don't mean to knock that, obviously,
Right.
for not millennia, but centuries, there have been bedrock institutions within academia. But for an MSP hack, is find somebody that maybe went to community college, got their associate's degree, and then started to work. What does
Yeah.
that tell you? This is somebody that comes with tradecraft and drive, somebody that wants to better themselves. They went to a trade school. And again, hopefully they've got good tenure. I used to say 4 to 5 years is good. Now 2 to 3 years is good. If you have 3 jobs in 8 years, that's, I think, probably within the realm of acceptability now. Okay. So now another hack, collegiate athletics. Again, doesn't matter the college, doesn't matter the sport. But if you went to college and you also were a varsity athlete in college, is it rowing? Is it track? It doesn't matter. That is tremendous tradecraft and discipline right there. It often translates directly to the workforce. Okay. They get up early, they train, they practice, and they go to school. Okay. So all of those things mashed together means that's another hack to say this is probably a good candidate. Next, military service. Okay, at any level for any length. I always like to see it, and it is, again, an indicator that, again, not a blanket statement, but typically, if you served, you're probably going to make a good employee. And for whatever the reason as to why you served at whatever level, if you were enlisted, if you were a TC, if you were an officer, you again believe in something bigger than yourself. You're trying. A lot of people. I love to see people that went for like the GI Bill. So they went in, then they went to college, and then they maybe experience wise they're a little more advanced, but that's because they went in and received some pedigree training in the military, then went to college, and now they're hitting the workforce. So using that those hacks there, and maybe you'll get this bulletized out, I think is a tremendous advantage when you're looking at candidates and there's a tie. The last one I'll leave you with, and I think it's really cool, and I hope people still look at it, is Eagle Scouts. That to me is a really cool thing. Most people will put that on their resume or their LinkedIn profile, but that shows you that they started this as a child, as a kid. And an Eagle Scout, that's no bullshit. I mean, you can't fake that. You got to. I'm not an Eagle Scout, but I know people that are, and they really worked to get there, and they did so at a young age, and they learned that. That was learned at an adolescent age, okay, during adolescence, and it's ingrained now in their bloodline, and that's how they're going to attack the workforce. So hope that helps. I think it might, and using that as you go through recruiting cycles, and if you see any of those little nuggets, just put a little gold star behind that candidate and say, hey, let's look at it.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And thank you for taking your time to be with us today. I'm going to hop in here and ask you our closing question so that I can let you get back to the wonderful world of recruitment and placement. So let's start with, what is the best business book that you ever read that helped you in business?
Okay. So I had two books that came to mind, but this is really the one that I like. When you did send me this question, but I did think of it right away. My favorite book that I apply to business is Moneyball by Michael Lewis. Okay?
Nice.
Some people, I don't know, I actually read the book, saw the movie, and read the book. And it taught me a lot about business. And I was a baseball guy growing up in high school. So, and the being a Dallas guy and a baseball Dallas guy, I was a Ranger fan, and the Rangers, actually the Texas Rangers, were a big player in the book because that's kind of what drove them to look at these metrics a little differently. But the cool thing that I took away, and being I was never really good. I was okay. Billy Beane was a five-tooled athlete, a baseball player. So you run, pitch, catch, throw, hit for pound. So five-tool. Okay. But what he noticed is that he burned himself out. His gifts were given to him largely by God, and he matured and honed those skills. But what he found really were one or two tooled players, and that spoke to me a lot because I've always had to work really hard to be
right.
And you don't have to be don't have to have God-given talent to work your ass off at whatever it is that you're doing.
Right.
And there's a lot more in that book, but I literally read that book in like 3 days.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. Totally recommend it. So Moneyball, Michael Lewis.
Love it. I love anything by Michael Lewis. Like, he's got some denser stuff.
But Big Short, that was pretty. I have not read that, but I've seen the movie, but I've been recommended that one. So
I believe I've read almost everything he's done, and everything he's done is I'm able to take something away from it. And especially Moneyball, we used that analogy in my previous MSP because we focused on finding candidates for hire that we were like, listen, they may not present in all the ways that you would want to have this unicorn, but they're really good at, being an engineer or killing a ticket.
That's what it was in Moneyball. The college walks. You could walk in college, you could walk in the pros, you get on base, that increases the odds that you're going to score runs with more people on base. So
you look at something, and then you got to know that, like, and I think the other part of Moneyball it took me a while to realize as an MSP operations manager, and I had to manage a budget and whatnot, was you're going to bring people onto your team that no one else has given an opportunity to. And you're going to spend a bunch of time and money, and they're going to accelerate, and they're going to be gifted as hell. And at some point, you have to make a decision. Can I afford this person? right? And if you've got 2 or 3 of those people on your team, you're lucky, but you got to realize that at some point, if you look at the Astros, it's a little bit different. They weren't Moneyball, but when you bring 3 or 4 rookies onto your team over the course of 2 or 3 years, at some point you got to pay them all big money when they mature. And so sometimes it's a badge of honor when somebody leaves your company better off than when they got there, because you realize
That is a fantastic statement, and you should take pride in that. And it should be, and I know we're tight on time, but so many times I see, the heartache or the vitriol, or the just the sense of betrayal when somebody leaves. And it should be quite the opposite. If it's done right, you should honor and praise, and look at what I've done. I plucked you out when you were in Double A, and now you can get this big dollar contract from the Yankees, or whatever analogy you want to make there. But I love that point, Andrew. That's fantastic that you look at it. So
see, I read the book too.
yeah,
I read it. I didn't just watch the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try. We got just a couple minutes left, so we don't want to belabor this point. What's your favorite curse word?
We talked about
what's your second favorite curse word?
Okay, so
second
there
favorite
is an
curse
acronym
word
that I think can
do it. Do it. Second favorite curse word.
I would say then the F word, which can be morphed into, I forget the comic that did it. Should probably look it up. It's probably my algorithm tonight, but you can use it in so many different varietals. It means so. It's a verb. It's a noun. It's an adjective. It's so many things. And as a golfer myself, it's like, golf is why do they call it golf? Because the S word and the F word and the D word we're already taken.
It's a 4-letter word, right? Yeah, no. So, I dig that.
Trying not to cuss here and keep this family friendly. So.
I mean, we can't. I mean, you can.
I know we can. I know. Yeah. But see, I changed it from the other one.
No, I think that's probably good for everybody for that other one. Yeah. But if you ever catch James out at a conference and you've had a couple of drinks, ask him what his favorite curse word is, and
there we go.
Prepared to be scandalized.
I'll buy the drink. If you come up to me and ask me what my favorite curse word is, I'll tell you, and then I'll buy you the drink.
I love that. I love that.
Let's see if anyone gets to the end of this and actually does that. I would love to see.
What's your favorite What's your favorite band and why?
Okay, my favorite band, again, of my age, is Pearl Jam.
Yes. Yep. Yes. My favorite band.
Lollapalooza in 1991, and I was hooked at that point in time. They are the sound of our generation.
Yes.
By far, I would go to any show better than the Goo Goo Dolls, although the Goo Goo Dolls were okay.
Yeah.
But that's my ride or die. I will know every word to every song.
Okay. What is the worst sales call or client meeting that you ever had, and why?
Okay. I will.
And you don't have to name names, because I'm
naming names. So it was a very odd situation. It was a decent sized member of the MSP community. It's a name that I think most would know. And it was weird. We started it was a discovery call, and about 5 minutes into the discovery call, principal from the other end of the phone line, actually it was a Zoom, if so it was face to face, made it even weirder. Basically hijacked it out of nowhere, leaving too much context out. That's another one. If you find me at a bar, I could talk to you about it, maybe. But it was very memorable, and it was it literally, it was jaw dropping that I didn't understand what was going on. I think that person probably was just having a bad day and took it out on their 2:30 or whatever time the call was at. This was, by the way, many years ago, probably. I think it may have been like 21.
Okay, and then MSP owner, operations person, vendor, by name. By name. All
right, I've got it. And of course,
who do you recommend?
We spent IT Nation together, good part of that. We got to meet a lot of friends. We have some friends in common. Like I said earlier, I think I have a tribe. I'm very blessed and fortunate that I have.
You do travel.
I did, not as much as I once did, but yes, I do. But I do have a very good, tight-knit tribe, as I like to call it. But there is another member that we call them a a brand ambassador. And he has been in my booth at IT Nation back when we had a booth. So it's been a couple years, but just a really interesting guy. His name is Sam Chalkett. His outfit is
Okay.
called DNS Dynamic Network Solutions. They're based out of
Okay.
Columbia, Maryland. So Sam is an engaging and very thought-provoking
Okay.
MSP.
All right.
And I actually want to tee you up with him. I hope
Yeah. I would love for the
Sam,
introduction because I'm
Sam
not
is a
familiar with
hard
him.
charger. There's no need for a Red Bull or a shot of espresso before you get with Sam, because
Okay.
a lot of people may know Sam, not a lot, but
Yeah.
some, and he and I are oftentimes seen together. But
I love
Sam
that.
Chalkett, DNS out of
Okay.
the Columbia, Maryland, just
Yeah.
outside of Washington D.C.
What?
Good
Yeah,
people, great operator, great team that he's got there.
that's, one of the things that I like, I want to, being in some of these peer groups and being at these conferences and stuff, you run into people that you would have never heard of before. And you run into people and they were running like an $8 or $9 million MSP and you don't know them. They're not on anybody's radar. They're running a tight shop. They're doing shit that you're like, why, what are you doing? And then they'll tell you and you're like, how does that work? And they explain it. You're like, oh shit, like you're doing something real innovative. And
Sure.
so, not that I think that people want to give away their secret sauce or whatever, but I want to highlight some of these people because I don't think that there's enough of that goes on in this industry, because we're really good at sharing with one another in person. But this format gives us the opportunity to really talk to some of these operators and other folks and say, hey, you should tell people about what you're doing because it's badass. Like what you're doing should be something that our industry should be considering so we can all benefit from the hard work that you're putting in and you get some recognition for it. So I love learning about other operators because I think it's fascinating to find out how all these
and
other MSPs
Sam's a
function.
good one for sure. He's
Yeah.
one of a kind, and he's memorable. People don't often forget him. So I'll tee that up on the back end of this. But I certainly appreciate the platform. I'm a huge fan of you, Andrew.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's great to you and I could probably do this all day, every day. We could just do
We,
like a
yep. Yeah.
like a Joe Rogan podcast with just
Yeah.
and the stories and whatnot from our years.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's been a pleasure to have you on. And I can't thank you enough for your friendship and for your time today. And then just, the professionalism that you've showed my clients and my companies over the years. So just again, thanks, James, for being on the show.
Honor and pleasure is all mine, Andrew. So I appreciate your trust and our partnership and our friendship. And I look forward to continue to grow that.
Well, that's all for today, folks. We'd like to thank our special guest, James Bier. And if you like what you heard, please subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform. If you watched us on YouTube, please like and smash the subscribe button. Until next time, keep learning on how to MSP.